In Formula One, there are moments when the cold, unforgiving numbers tell a story far louder than any press release or PR spin ever could. And right now, those numbers are staring Lawrence Stroll directly in the face. 27 consecutive race weekends, nearly an entire season and a half without Lance Stroll out-qualifying Fernando Alonso. That's not just a statistic. It's a flashing warning sign in a sport where a single lap can define a driver's reputation for years. Qualifying isn't everything, sure, but it sets the tone for race day. And when you're constantly starting behind your teammate, especially one nearly 2 decades older than you, it sends a very clear message about your comparative pace. Alonso, even deep into his 40s, continues to wring every last drop of performance out of the Aston Martin. His raw speed, combined with decades of racecraft, still makes him a threat in almost any conditions. And Lance, despite having the same machinery, he hasn't been able to crack Alonso's armor not once in 27 straight Saturdays. Lawrence Stroll hasn't exactly been passive about Aston Martin's ambitions. He's moved aggressively, bringing in legendary engineering mastermind Adrian Newey, recruiting top-tier personnel like Andy Cowell and Enrico Cardile, and securing Honda power units for 2026. These moves scream championship intent, and yet, there's a growing feeling in the paddock that all of this could be undermined by one factor: driver performance. No matter how good your car is, if one seat isn't maximized, you're fighting with one arm tied behind your back. And in this case, the weaker link isn't just any driver, it's the owner's son. This creates a tension unlike any other in the sport. It's not just about performance, it's about bloodlines, pride, and an investment that goes far beyond money. If Lance were just another driver, this conversation would have already been settled behind closed doors. But replacing your son, that's not a simple strategic call. That's a decision that cuts into the heart of why Lawrence Stroll is even in this sport. It's worth remembering how Lance Stroll's Formula One journey began. Before Aston Martin, before Force India, before Lawrence Stroll's direct ownership of a team, Lance's path was carefully constructed through calculated investments. In Formula 3, Lawrence purchased Prema, the most dominant team in the series, even ensuring they had access to Williams' wind tunnels, something no other F3 team could touch. This wasn't just support, it was strategic control over his son's development environment. And it worked. Lance became F3 champion. That led to Williams in 2017, where Lawrence injected sponsorship money to secure the seat. In that rookie season, Lance showed flashes of brilliance: 40 points, a sensational podium in Baku, and a growing reputation as a competent, if raw, talent. But everything changed when Lawrence bought Force India in 2018, rebranding it as Racing Point and eventually transforming it into Aston Martin. At that moment, Lance's F1C became bulletproof. The pressure to earn his place evaporated, replaced by a sense of security few F1 drivers ever experience. And while that might sound like a dream scenario, in a sport built on relentless self-improvement, it can also be a curse. Over the years, the hunger that drove Lance at Williams seemed to fade. His performances became inconsistent, his qualifying pace lagged behind, and even his body language at press conferences suggested a driver more frustrated than determined. Yet no matter the results, the seat remained his dot from the outside. This looked like the textbook definition of nepotism. Inside the paddock, whispers grew louder. Was Lawrence's investment in the team really about winning championship, just about keeping Lance in F1? The answer, at least until recently, seemed to be both. But the 2026 regulations have changed the equation entirely. With Newey and Honda on board, Aston Martin suddenly has the potential to leapfrog Ferrari and Mercedes, and if they do, the driver lineup becomes the final piece of the puzzle. Which brings us back to the question Lawrence can't escape: is Lance truly the man to lead this team into a title fight? What makes this decision even harder is the context of Aston Martin's current state. The team is struggling in 2025 not because they've fallen asleep at the wheel, but because they've intentionally shifted resources toward 2026. This was confirmed by CEO Andy Cowell, who admitted that while it's painful to walk away from potential points now, the long-term investment will pay off when the new regulations arrive. The mood inside the team reflects this. Engineers, mechanics, and strategists are walking away from race weekends unsatisfied, knowing they could have done better in the short term but choosing to sacrifice today for tomorrow. That's why Lance's performance worries are so significant. If the 2026 car is as competitive as Aston Martin hopes, both drivers will need to be extracting everything from it. Alonso, despite his age, has proven he can deliver podiums and even challenge for wins if the machinery allows. But what happens when Alonso eventually retires? In theory, leadership of the team would fall to Lance, and right now few believe he's capable of carrying that responsibility. The qualifying deficit isn't just a number, it's a reflection of pace, adaptability, and race start positioning, all crucial in the ultra-tight battles that define modern F1. There's also Lance's reaction to the upcoming regulation changes. While most drivers are cautiously optimistic, Lance has openly criticized the shift toward more electric power and reduced downforce, calling the new cars a bit sad and likening them to a science project rather than pure racing machines. This kind of attitude doesn't exactly inspire confidence that he'll adapt quickly to the new era. If the goal is to build a team culture focused on opportunity and resilience, you need drivers who embrace change, not resist it. And that's where the fear creeps in. What if Aston Martin builds a potential championship-winning car, and one of their drivers simply can't deliver? Ralf Schumacher's comments cut straight to the heart of the matter. If Lawrence really wants to become world champion, he has to dismiss his son. It's as blunt as it gets, but it reflects the sentiment of many in the paddock. This isn't about disrespecting Lance, it's about acknowledging that Formula One is the absolute pinnacle of motorsport. Every tenth of a second matters. Every position on the grid can make or break a season, and in a championship fight, you simply can't well afford a driver who's consistently off the pace. Lawrence has tried to stack the deck in Lance's favor. Pairing him with Vettel, then Alonso, was meant to accelerate his growth through direct mentorship from world champions. The idea was simple: expose Lance to the mindset and methods of proven winners, hoping the lessons would translate into results. But talent isn't something you can buy or download, it's an intrinsic quality that's either there or it's not. And while Lance has moments of brilliance, the consistency just hasn't materialized. There's also the legacy factor. If Lawrence is serious about Aston Martin becoming more than a midfield curiosity, if he truly wants to dethrone Red Bull or Mercedes, he has to think beyond family ties. The driver market is rich with talent. From proven veterans to rising stars like Yuki Tsunoda or Oscar Piastri, there are options who could slot in and immediately raise the team's competitiveness. The uncomfortable truth is that almost any top-tier or even mid-tier driver on today's grid would likely outperform Lance in equal machinery. And deep down, Lawrence probably knows it. But acknowledging it means confronting a truth no parent wants to face. Maybe your child's dream isn't the same as their destiny. This is the crossroad. On one path, Lawrence keeps Lance in the seat, betting that the 2026 car will be so superior that even a driver with a proven qualifying deficit can deliver enough points to fight for the title. On the other path, he makes the hardest decision of his career, replacing his son with a driver capable of extracting every ounce of performance from the team's multi-million-dollar investment. The stakes couldn't be higher. F1 doesn't hand out second chances when you have a championship kit package. Miss your window, and it could be years or decades before it opens again. For Lance, this could be a defining moment. Without his father's direct ownership, would he even have a seat on the grid? And if not, does he transition to another racing series, perhaps carving out a career away from the constant comparisons and criticisms of F1? For Lawrence, the decision is even heavier. This isn't just about points or podiums, it's about legacy. If Aston Martin becomes a title contender but falls short because of one seat, that failure will be remembered for as long as the team exists. Formula One is ruthless. It rewards performance and punishes sentimentality. And as much as this is a story about engineering brilliance, massive investments, and championship dreams, it's also about a father who must decide whether to protect his son or protect his team's future. If you were Lawrence Stroll, which path would you take? Keep the bloodline alive at the risk of losing it all, or make the cut and chase the ultimate prize? Let us know what you think in the comments, and if you want to see the full story unfold, subscribe and stay with us, because this is one decision that could change the future of Formula One forever.